Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and we've got some big updates on the car market in today's video. Before we get into this though, as always, if you want to save time and money the next time you purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below. Let's get into it. So there is a lot happening with the auto market right now, and it is pushing for some pretty big changes. The first thing is that January is looking to be a lot stronger than expected. I'm talking about January of 2024. We just officially finished that sales month. And again, based by the initial numbers, it looks like January 2024 is going to have seen more sales volume compared to January of 2023. Now, something to note about January of 2023, that was a time where new car inventory was still, it wasn't horrible, but it wasn't at levels that were able to fully meet buyer demand. And so January of 2023, I think, would have seen more volume if there were more cars available. Whereas January of 2024 wouldn't have seen more volume if there were more cars available. Like, there's more than enough cars available. And so I don't think that buying demand has necessarily increased from 23 to 24 in terms of the Januaries, if that makes sense. I think that's just inventory has increased. And so people that weren't able to buy last year in January are able to buy this year because they could find the vehicle that they were looking for, at least in the new car side of things. And so the new car market is proving to be more robust than expected. Again, the tail end of 2023 looked like things were starting to soften up quite a bit. Like, the market was just not going to be in all that good of a place in 2024. And things just took a complete 180 in December and January. Again, they have continued to remain strong. And this also proves true for the used car market as well. The used car market is actually substantially stronger than the new car market right now. And again, this is based off of the data, but this is also based off of anecdotes that I'm hearing from dealers. There are a lot of dealers that are telling me that they went from being a new car dealership in 2023, at least the beginning, to now they're a used car dealership. They're still selling new cars, but they're selling more used cars than they're selling new cars right now. And so the strength that we're seeing in the new car market pales in comparison to the strength that we're seeing in the used car market. And I think a big part of the reason as to why the used car market is seeing so much strength is that new car prices, although they have, somewhat come down because of, cemented rates help out a little bit, but, rebates and dealer discount, they haven't decreased nearly as much as used car prices. And if you look at new car prices across the board, when you look at the year-over-year changes, they're pretty much flat. Whereas the used car prices, there's been big declines. And so we're finally in a market where if you look at, let's say, a 2024 brand new on the lot, and you look at that same exact car pre-owned 2023, you'll actually be able to buy the 2023 for less money. And this is like the first time this has happened in 3+ years. And so I think that's a big part of the reason as to why we're seeing so much strength in the used car market, is because there's actually a price difference. And so now people are able to buy these lower mileage, cars that are only about like a year or two old at this point. Because again, you got to remember, the market isn't flooded with cars, at least in the used car market, but they're able to buy these cars that are a year or two old for less money than the brand new one. And so for a lot of people, that's the route that they're choosing to go. And so when it comes to sales, things are a lot stronger than expected. And this is surprising because when you look at the interest rate side of things, interest rates haven't decreased at all. The Federal Reserve has met, 4 times in a row, and they haven't decreased rates. And, there's a lot of talk that they're going to decrease rates later this year. But it's one of those things where I'm going to say until it happens, it hasn't happened. And so with these higher rates, you'd think that that would quench quite a bit of demand, but it doesn't seem like it is doing that. Now, something to note is that although the demand is strong compared to what we've seen over the last few years, it is nothing compared to what we saw prior to the pandemic. Again, we're just starting out the 2024 sales year, but what it looks like is going to happen is we're probably going to see more used car sales this year compared to last year. Last year ended up around 35 million units total. And then we're most likely going to see about the same amount of new cars sold, maybe a little bit more than last year. And last year, going to run that 15 million unit range. And if you look at prior to the pandemic, the car market saw over 40 million used cars sold per year and, around 17 million new cars. And so this year is strong, right? Looking to be strong, I should say, compared to prior, the last few years, but it's not as strong as what we saw prior to the pandemic from a volume perspective. And I think this is very important to mention because when you look at sales profitability is closer to what we saw prior to the pandemic on a per unit basis, which means that right now dealerships are selling, again, more cars than over the last couple of years, but fewer cars than they sold prior to the pandemic. And they're making less money on a per car basis than they did during the pandemic, and about the same amount of money on a per car basis as what they're making prior to the pandemic. So fewer car sales and about the same amount of money per car, which means that overall dealerships in their sales departments are generating less revenue, and it's causing a lot of pain. I'm seeing a lot of turmoil in the car industry. A lot of dealer groups are kind of moving things around in terms of, roles that they have. Like some dealerships are just getting rid of certain roles. Again, they're kind of just trying to lower costs because a dealership's biggest cost is the people that work at the dealership. And then, dealerships are trying new people. I've seen a lot of management positions change within dealerships just over the last few months because, again, they're just trying to figure out the situation. And that's on the sales side of things. The service side of things, if you follow this channel, you know that it's been extremely strong for dealerships. In terms of volume of sales in the service department, yeah, it'll go up and down from a month-to-month basis, but overall revenue has remained really steady and really high. We are still at historic highs in terms of revenue in dealership service departments. And so the service departments are really just keeping things afloat at this point. And so, yeah, it's an interesting market overall. And what I would say to cap things off with this video, if you are looking for a car, when it comes to new cars, at this point, it is 100% a buyer's market for new cars. There's not really anything outside of, a very small number of specialty vehicles that there can't be a deal done on the car. Like everything can be wheeled and dealed when it comes to the new car market. I don't care if it's a Toyota or a Honda that have low inventory, right? There's deals to be had on everything. And then when it comes to the pre-owned market, I think that it's finally worth looking into because what I'm at least seeing on my end is that there's, not a ton of inventory available in the pre-owned market, but there is some inventory and it's finally, it's not fully reasonably priced, but it's more reasonably priced than it has been in the last few years. And so there might be a pre-owned car in the market right now that actually might make sense to you, and especially when you compare it to some of the new car prices. So let me know what you guys think about this whole market situation. I think that this year is going to be really important for the overall car industry because it's going to be one of those kind of like sink or swim type years. I know I'm being a little bit dramatic, but I really do think with whatever happens with sales, whatever happens with the election stuff this year, interest rates, all of that, all of this is going to come into play to determine how dealerships do business moving forward over the next few years. I'll see you.